If you sell your house in Delaware for $400,000, how much of that actually ends up in your pocket? Most sellers guess somewhere around $380,000, $370,000. The real number is usually closer to $350,000, and the gap between what you think you walk away with and what you actually will walk away with, that's what gets sellers in trouble. I'm Dave Sordelet with Team Sordelet, and today I'm walking you through every single cost that comes out of your sale price in Delaware. In order, with real numbers, no fluffing, no guessing, by the end of this video, you'll be able to build your own rough net sheet in your head. Now let's start with these three costs that make up the bulk of what you'll be paying. Everything else is small by comparison. Number one, commission. Here's how this actually works. In Delaware today, and it's a little more nuanced than most people realize, when you list with an agent, the agent is negotiating their own listing commission with you directly. Typically somewhere between 2.5 to 3.5 percentage points. Depends on the agent, depends on what services they offer. Separately, in the agreement of sale, there's a decision that you'll be able to make on how the buyer side gets compensated. Either structured as a commission paid to the buyer's broker or as a seller assist, where you will provide funds at closing to the buyer, then that buyer will use those funds to pay their own agent directly. Either way, what we're still typically seeing in the market is buyer's agent commission, no matter what you call it, landing at a minimum of around 2 to 2.5%, in some cases 3%, and it really depends on how enthusiastic the seller is about wanting to sell their house and maybe how many other offers they have or what those other offers are made of or what they consist of. What are the other terms? So when you add the listing side and the buyer side together, total commission on a typical Delaware transaction still generally runs 4.5% to 6% to 6.5% of the sale price. On a $400,000 home, that's $20,000, $24,000. This is the single biggest line item, and it's also the one sellers ask me about first. So let's be straight about it. If your listing commission is a direct negotiation between you and your agent, and it's what pays for marketing, negotiating, and everything that gets you the highest possible sale price, so the right question isn't, how do I pay less? It's, am I getting enough value for what I'm paying? Number two, Delaware's Realty Transfer Tax. This one surprises almost every seller I talk to because Delaware doesn't have this framed the way other states do. The combined transfer tax typically runs 4% of the sale price, split evenly, 2% paid by the buyer and 2% paid by the seller. Unless you're buying new construction. And in most cases, if you're not using the builder's mortgage company, they will not cover your transfer tax. So you'll be stuck paying, they will not cover their transfer tax, so you'll be stuck paying a total of 4%. They use that as an incentive to get you to use their lender. On the same $400,000 home, your side as the seller comes out to about $8,000. Now here's the part that matters. For Newcastle County sellers, specifically if you're in Newark, Middletown, Ellesmere, or Newport, your municipality has its own carve-out or add rate, so the exact number shifts depending on what town you're in. And if you're a first-time home buyer, they may qualify for a reduction on their side depending on the municipality, which doesn't change your number, but it's worth knowing since it can affect negotiations. I've got a full breakdown of the county by county numbers in a separate video. I think I'll link it at the end of this video. Number three, and this one's small, but it's worth knowing. If you have a mortgage on a property, there's typically a fee for what's called a satisfaction piece. This is the document that officially records your mortgage as paid off once your payoff is processed. It's a minor cost, usually well under $100,000, but it's a real line item on your settlement statement. Most of the other closing costs, adjacent fees you might expect as a seller for the deed preparation, recording fees, title insurance are actually buyer side costs in Delaware, not yours. So list of direct seller fees is shorter than a lot of sellers assume. And those together on $400,000 example, $22,000 in commission, $8,000 in transfer tax, and a small satisfaction fee for the satisfaction piece, and we're already at roughly $30,000, even before we've gotten to the smaller stuff. This is the cost that people forget. Now let's talk about the costs that don't show up in most people's mental math, because there are the ones that create surprises at the settlement table. Property tax proration. If you've already paid your property taxes for that period and you're selling mid-year, you might actually get a credit back at closing. If you haven't paid it yet, you'll owe your share up to the closing date. This one can go either way. So don't assume it's automatically a cost. Sometimes it's a credit in your favor. HOA fees, if you have them, any unpaid dues get settled at closing, plus some HOAs charge a transfer or resale certificate fee, usually in the $100 to $500 range. Seller concessions. This is the one that varies the most. If a buyer's inspection turns up issues, or if you're in a market where buyers have negotiating leverage, you may agree to credit the buyer some amount towards closing costs or repairs. I've seen this in a range of $0 to 5 figures, depending entirely on the condition of the home and the negotiating. This is exactly why pricing and prep matter so much before you ever list. The better shape your home is in, the less leverage a buyer has to ask for concessions later. Attorney or settlement fees. In Delaware, typically the buyer pays for the closing attorney. Some sellers will, on rare occasion, bring their attorney or get their attorney involved for some document review, but typically in Delaware, the buyer is the one that is represented by the closing attorney, and the buyer is the one that pays the attorney at the closing table. And mortgage payoffs. This isn't technically a selling cost, but it's a number most sellers actually care about because it determines what's left. Don't forget, if you have a mortgage, that payoff comes out before you see a dime. And if you're close to your original purchase price, this is a number that determines whether you're bringing money to the closing or walking away with a check. A real worked example. So let's put together all this real numbers start to finish so you can see exactly how it flows. Say you're selling a home for $400,000, you owe $200,000 on your mortgage. Sale price $400,000, commission, listing side plus buyer side compensation at 5.5% total. $22,000 transfer tax, seller's 2%, $8,000. Mortgage satisfaction piece, $50. Seller concession, let's say you agreed to $2,500 towards the buyer closing costs. That's another $2,500. Mortgage payoff, $200,000. Add up everything you're paying out, 22 plus 8,000 plus 50 plus 2,500 plus 2,500,000 or 200,000 payoff. That's $230,000 that's coming off the top. 400,000 minus $230,000 off the top leaves you with a net of $167,400. That's the number that matters, not the sale price, the net. And this is exactly why, before you ever put a sign in your yard, you want a real seller's net sheet built with your actual numbers, not a rough estimate from an online calculator that doesn't know your county, your HOA, your specific mortgage balance. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The sale price is not the number that changes your life. The net proceeds is. And every seller deserves to know that number before they list, not after they're sitting at the settlement table wondering where the money went. If you want to know your actual number, not a rough estimate, your real one based on your home, your mortgage, and your specific town, I'll put together a free tool for exactly that. It's linked below. It's called Free Home Equity Report, and it takes about 2 minutes. Go to search.teamsordelet.com/seller and get your real numbers today. I'm Dave Sordelet. This is Team Sordelet with Real Broker, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to this channel and share it with someone who might be thinking about selling their home.